everyone.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
Oh no, it's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What is up, you ducks? It's all on football on FTN with Jeff Ratcliffe and myself. We are going to continue, actually round out and finish our NFL draft preview, talking rookies, wide receivers this week, fits, and what our opinions are and evaluations. And I almost thought Jeff froze right out of the gate there. He was like such a stone cold poker face over there. But we are continuing to roll. By the way, code all in, get you 20, or I almost mixed up the codes there. Code all in is the code you get the free month at the Athletic. No, wait, at FTN. I was right. I was doing it right to begin with. It's been too long, Jeff. That's the problem. This once a week thing is kind of like screwing me up, which good news for everybody out there. Next week, push back to Friday, but after that, Jeff is on Monday or Wednesday and Lauren's on Monday. So it is a 2-week thing as Jeff drops out and hopefully it comes back after all these things. Such a great start after a week, but code all in 20% at FTN. Jeff has projections for USFL over there, by the way. If you want anything out there with baseball, betting, anything you need DFS wise, that'll get you over there. Theathletic.com/betstv is what I was thinking of, all capitals. Get you the first free month at The Athletic, where I have all my rookie pre-draft ranks, and then I'll have the coverage live during Thursday night, mostly live during Friday night, and then bursts of updates on Saturday, and then post-draft ranks, because we love ranks. And what else do I have before Jeff hopefully comes back? Yes, we are waiting for him. I think that's all the announcements we have. Oh, you can't even see my full T-shirt. Annie, are you okay? How about that? From Ripped Apparel, one of my last 3 or 4 that I have to get going over here. But wide receiver, Jeff, you have to hurry to come back because I was going to talk Debo Samuel before we even got to the fact. Oh, wait, there we go. We got you back. I was going to say, before we even get to rookies, we have to talk Debo Samuel because he's the latest, although you're making a quizzical face. Can you hear me? Yes or no? No? Yes? No? Where'd you go, Jeff? No on Jeff. Jeff lost his audio. Okay, so we were going to wait on Debo Samuel and talk wide receiver rookies for this year's draft, as in this is a bang-up job for this long-awaited show that everybody's been talking about. But Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams are the big names along the top. Treylon Burks is a contentious name that people are debating whether or not deserves to be in that conversation. I'm listing these out as we kind of start to go down the list. These are the guys we're going to be talking about today. Some of the George Pickens situation, Dotson, Christian Watson with his great combine. Let's see, we got Bell, Ross, Mechie, all the rest, and some deep others. Position fits like we're talking about. When we talk about this situation is, if you saw the show with Chris and Lauren last week, is saying, where do these teams need wide receivers? I listed them out, and I'm really curious to see what Jeff and maybe you guys think as well. But where I say, like, teams don't need them, obviously we can talk about the Bengals. But every team out there, all 32 teams, probably at some point takes a flyer on somebody. I could even see the Bengals taking somebody in the 7th round. But quizzical face again, Jeff. Do you have me now?
I can hear you now, so there's that. Gotta love technology.
Okay, great technology. I was just running through talking about the fits potential for the wide receivers of the ones that I liked and didn't like, and saying, you know, we're going to see probably the Bengals, whether or not they take anybody. They don't have a need, but every team seems to draft a wide receiver at some point these days. But that's what we're going to be talking about. But are you ready? Like I said, I'm going to take a step back and say what we needed to talk things out about to start with is Debo Samuel. So we're still good, right? You can still hear me. You're shaking your head, yes. So we're good.
For right now, yes.
For right now. Debo Samuel. One is, I guess this is a 2-part question, Jeff, and the fact that, is this the new norm where wide receivers are going to start demanding trades? And then 2, do you have an ideal landing spot or 2 you'd like to see Debo go if this truly does happen?
I don't know if it's the new norm in the NFL or not. I really hope we don't get towards the NBA where players are with teams for a year and then another team and then another team and another team. but we've already moved from a world where there was strict fan allegiance to, there's still a lot of folks who are fans of particular teams, but there are a lot of folks who might be like me who, you know, when they were growing up, all of a sudden started to have allegiance to players, not necessarily to fans or to teams that is. And, you know, maybe that changes the landscape. I think that's in part what paved the way for fantasy football to be as popular as it is as well. So I don't know. I hope it's not the norm. As far as a landing spot, I do think that he could be like Randall Cobb souped up for Green Bay if that did happen. So I wouldn't mind that one.
I think everybody wishes that the Green Bay actually answers their wide receiver situation, especially with no Devontae Adams. Let me turn it around then a little bit. I see a lot of people, which I question them drafting a wide receiver with one of their first 2 picks. That gives you a little hint of where I'm going with this, let alone the rumors starting with this. Am I the odd one out here thinking, like, why does everybody want a wide receiver? Why does everybody want somebody to go to the Jets? Like, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis is coming back. They're not just going to kick Corey Davis and say, screw you, we're done with you, forget about it, you're gone. And they're arguably 3 wide receiver deep with the additions. So a rookie come in there, like, yeah, I could say going forward, like 2023, okay, now that looks great. Now you can cut Corey Davis and get rid of him, and it just didn't work out, or whatever it might be. Or maybe he just turns into your 3rd wide receiver like a DeMarcus Robinson for the Chiefs. But I just don't feel like a rookie situation is great with the Jets. And then Debo Samuel there, is this really the best spot? Like, you just mentioned it. Green Bay's better. Debo Samuel on the Browns with Deshaun Watson, I think is better. Like, I don't think the Jets are like a top 3 landing spot for a rookie or Debo.
The only thing that you would have, though, is the continuity, because I think if you're getting Debo Samuel and you're not planning to use him like Debo Samuel, then there's really no point of getting him. You know, you need to use him as that offensive weapon, hybrid type player. Maybe not to the extent of Kyle Shanahan in the run game, but still you're going to use him in that way. And Mike LaFleur there does have that continuity. So I think at least that makes sense. I'm not quite sure who is pushing the Jets narrative so hard across the board, but somebody is, and they do have a lot of work to do beyond wide receiver. And wide receiver doesn't even seem like it's a major priority. I do agree there. So I don't think that one makes the most sense to me. No.
Okay. All right. So anything, I'm trying to see anybody other teams that you could say Debo Samuel. Eagles, would you be on board with that?
No.
No.
I would rather get somebody like DK Metcalf. I would rather see them get a bigger bodied receiver to complement what you have, or to pair up with what you have in Devontae Smith. What
about the Bears? Darnell Mooney's their number 1 right now.
I mean, the number 1 guys, seriously, the Darnell Mooney stuff. Like, if I don't like selling young players in Dynasty, but why is people are saying, oh, he should be 27% target share. Like, really? Darnell Mooney? Darnell Mooney is a complimentary piece, of course. And I think he's a very good one. It's not a knock on him, but people are acting like he's like this X receiver that I just don't see it in the cards. The Bears need a lot. Bears need a lot. So wide receiver, sure, but I just don't know if that's the priority of this new regime.
All right, I got 2 more for you, and one of them just dropped into the chat. I was going to say, what about the Saints, as they are convincing themselves they're contenders this year? Although, if you can go like 4 or 5 teams deep in the NFC before you're like, wow, it gets ugly. So who's to say they aren't contenders? So the Saints, and then Albert just mentioned the other team I was going to bring up was the Colts, with basically a big question alongside Michael Pittman.
Yeah, the Colts are viable. I don't think they use them in the same way, though.
Right.
Run-heavy offense.
Yeah, you're not going to...
that isn't necessarily going to use the running back out of the backfield.
Are we?
I don't know.
Let me ask you that question real quick. Let me come back, because you mentioned that. Like, why would you trade for Debo unless you're going to use him the same way? Are we selfishly saying that for fantasy? Or is this a real thing? Like, because if you think about it for Debo... career-wise, maybe he's part of the reason that the trades like, maybe he doesn't want all those touches. Like, I know he joked about being a wide back, but maybe he doesn't want to get the additional 50 touches out of a backfield, and all of a sudden his career is only 4 more years instead of 7 at wide receiver.
I mean, it's a viable concern. We heard Austin Eckler even saying as much, like he'd be happy if he didn't touch the ball just quite as much. He's still going to be involved, but it's a viable concern for these guys. And especially when you're a player who's now right on the cusp of your first big contract, Like, you want to be in an Allen Robinson situation where you get that additional contract, and the only way to do it is to stick in the league for 8 years, and that's not easy to do for a lot of these guys.
No, it's not. All right, so then last question before we move on to the rookies, which is the theme of this show, because, this Debo news is kind of shaking everything up. If you are in Dynasty right now, Jeff, are you buying or selling Debo?
I would say neither. I think I'm holding him.
Okay.
If I have him on my roster, I'm holding him. If I'm trying to buy him, I'm probably overpaying, which I guess then therefore makes sense to sell him.
Right.
But I just don't see how it's viable to sell a 26-year-old wide receiver in a dynasty league, who is, by all intents and purposes, a top 10, if not top 5 guy for most people out there.
Okay. Actually, you know what? I lied. One more question for you. This is dynasty specific. And I get your curious take on this one. I saw a trade go down, and I tweeted about it last week. And it comes down to Saquon Barkley and whether you're a buyer or seller in Saquon Barkley. And here's why. Because it was Saquon Barkley for Chase Edmonds and the 108. You're shaking your head no at the trade, or are you shaking your head no at you lost the audio? You just muted yourself. You muted yourself. Somehow. There we go.
I didn't mute myself. This thing... I lost you, and then it turned me on mute. So I heard something about Chase Edmonds.
It was
this live TV, everybody out there.
Jeff, you got a laptop from like 1984 over there?
No, 2016, which might as well be 1984.
Exactly. You kind of made the joke I was about to make when you said 2016. All right, so it was Saquon Barkley for Chase Edmonds in the 108. With the 108, you're already into that group of questionable wide receiver / running back anyway. So I would say, which side of the deal would you want? And to forget the fact that you're a contender or not, just would you want Barkley or would you want Edmonds in the 108?
I mean, I don't want Edmonds. He's too old.
There you go. So there you go.
I don't really want Barkley either, because then I'm going to have to turn around and trade him relatively soon.
Maybe.
I mean, he's 25, so that means that I have to trade him next year.
You don't have to.
Well, by dynasty criteria points, you do. Age 26, 5th year in the league. One or both of those things is time to jump off of the player to maximize what you can get in return. Never going to time a trade quite perfectly in dynasty, but I set up the criteria at running back to maximize what I can get out of it.
Okay, but I think that's the reason I'm saying I would solidly go for Barkley is because what you just said, because even if you have to trade him next year, Edmonds in the 108 is a bargain price. Like, what's the likelihood of Edmonds in the 108 and Barkley if they both hit, even I won't even say peak. Let's say they both do 90% of what their possibilities are. The 90% of Barkley is going to demand more than whatever the 108 is with Edmonds in a year from now. Like, nobody's paying for Edmonds that much to begin with, let alone Edmonds a year from now. So you would need the 108 to be like a Jalen Waddle, and that doesn't usually happen. Waddle's usually gone with like a 4th or 5th pick. There's
a lot of depth in this year's class.
There is.
What if I draft Christian Watson at 108 or somebody like that?
What if Christian Watson is Dorial Green Beckham? I'm not saying he is, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm just saying, like, the 108's a big question. Like, it's not the 105.
No,
and
that's not the most valuable pick.
Yeah.
It just seems like a trade that I wouldn't do, I guess, is more what I'm getting at here.
Okay. All right, then let's do this. Let's talk wide receivers. So tier 1 for me, and this is where we can have some differences of opinions and everything. Like, I only have 4. I almost had 5, but I just couldn't put Treylon Burks there. And we can talk about Treylon Burks, but you might put him back into this conversation because my question is going to be, my 4 are London, Olave, Wilson, and Williams. Would you put Burks with them, or would you keep those 4, or would you even bring it down and kick somebody out of that tier?
No, I think that's fair, but I do have Burks clearly in that group because of the versatility, because of the size, because of the Debo Samuel-like skill set. Honestly, I do think he's in there, and I do think, especially where he likely lands, you're talking mid to late first round is typically where he's mocking. If he does fall to the second round, I guess that may be a little bit telling. But we've seen plenty of these second-round wide receivers be very productive in the NFL. But I do think he's actually part of that group, and I have him there.
Okay, so then let me give you my negatives or my areas of concern. And what are we smiling now for? What's going on? That was a big sigh. Can you not hear me now? Is that what that? There goes Jeff again. All right. So my concerns. Well, I don't even know if I should give my concerns. You know what? I'm going to talk about the 4 because if I give my concerns, I'm going to have to repeat them for Jeff anyway. So my big 4, which we both agree on, as I mentioned, were London, Wilson, Olave, and Williams. A lot of people might not think Olave deserves to be there. I think so. I think the biggest reason I even said in my draft profile about him, the only reason people came off of him is because of fatigue. We already knew who he was. We're surprised that he went back to college, and a lot of people were like, ooh, I want the shiny new toy, or I want the shiny new. I guess that's not really a toy for us, but in the fact of like people we hadn't heard of. And with the explosion of his teammate Wilson, I think a lot of that's part of what overshadowed that Olave is a great receiver. So I still have Olave. Jeff is in and out. I'm just going to wait if Jeff can hear me to give thumbs up when you come back, dude. But Olave, I've seen a lot of people mock to the Packers, as we were talking about before, which I think would be an amazing fit. Although I think a lot of these wide receivers would be an amazing fit, but he's likely to be on the board for the Packers if they don't trade up or move in the draft. London is, if I had to have, so I always do tiers because landing spot depends, fit depends, and we're going to talk about fits as I mentioned. But if I had to have a 101, if I had to have like, this is my top guy, it would be London for me. And no, I don't agree with the whole, he can't separate, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, first of all, go watch some London games and see the fact that he has separated. And no, he is not a separator in the fact of, we keep bringing up Debo Samuel or a terrific route runner that gets that kind of separation. But he finds space among the best of them. I think Matt Harmon graded him extremely well in his reception perception. He just dominates defenders. And a lot of comparisons have been made, and I agree with it, is to Mike Evans. Mike Evans isn't the best separator, but he gets space, and when he doesn't, he knows how to dominate the defenders and catch the ball when contested. So Drake London's my guy. I think will be a top 15 pick guaranteed, possibly even higher. I'm curious to see what some of the lines might be out there for him, although I don't know if there is one for him. Jamison Williams, I think the big question, obviously, with him is the injury. I think he's even better than his teammate, Devonta Smith, and former teammate. And I think that he brings a lot. It'd be interesting to see where he goes fit-wise. As I'm trying to think who else might be a good fit for him besides. I just don't want to see. I see a lot of people saying the Eagles. I don't want to see him go to the Eagles. So those are my big 4. Those are clearly the top tier. We're going to talk about Burks and my concerns when Jeff comes back. After that, you know what? Let me ask a question, and we'll find out real quick. Are we able to go like to a fake commercial as we try to get Jeff here? As we, by the way, we have a brand new producer. Like, throw him right into the fire with this stuff with Jeff. So, like, if you can, just like give me just go. Just if not, I'll continue. Yeah, there we go. You good, Jeff? We finally back in business.
No, no, I'm. The computer's fine. I turn on StreamYard, it shuts the computer down.
I can hear you. We can hear what.
And I'm looking at the activity monitor right now. It's on fire.
Did your computer get an STD? Okay, so Jeff is out. Jeff's computer is like completely on its last leg and decided that today it was going to kick the bucket on him. So instead of trying to cobble together something and sit here and argue with myself, because that's part of the show is debating, going to reach out to Chris, see if maybe we can do like a 20-30 minute special episode tomorrow. So watch for the tweet for that. Please don't thumbs down this episode. But as much as that, this is what you get to see behind the scenes, real life. Sometimes these things happen. I'm going to try and make it up to you. As a reminder for everybody out there, the week after for the NFL draft, we're going to do live Friday morning, a recap of the first round. Monday will be with Jeff to recap the entire draft. And then that Tuesday or Wednesday, I forget, somewhere around there, is either Chris or Lauren. I got to look at the schedule. But anyway, we're going to try and make this up to you. So come back, and we still love you guys. See you later.